Rain, a wedding invitation, a loaded gun without bullets. In a cramped New York apartment, Emma holds the card that announces her sister's marriage to the man who once whispered forever into her skin. Days later, under neon and storm lights, she boards the wrong bus and watches armed men drag a stranger into the dark. Then a luxury car glides beside her like fate itself. And inside sits Adrian Castellano, a man who looks at her as if she has already changed his life. That is the moment her old world begins to die.
On Emma Carter's kitchen counter, a wedding invitation rests not as a piece of stationery, but as a carefully constructed, explosive device. Etched in gilded script are two names: her sister, Victoria, and the groom, Ryan Blake. This is the very man to whom Emma had devoted 3 years of her life, the man whose promises of a future had dissolved into an abrupt and total silence. Now he is set to marry the family's immaculate scion, a sister who has always possessed everything. As a storm rages over her modest New York apartment, a foundational pillar within her gives way. In 7 days, she will discover that this singular act of betrayal is but a prelude to a far greater unraveling. We now descend into the anatomy of a life on the verge of collapse. The narrative begins in a hospital where the air is a sterile concoction of chemicals and the subtle, pervasive odor of human frailty, a scent that clings to one's being. Here, Emma Carter supports the 4th floor nurse's station, her spine a column of pain, her feet protesting inside shoes that surrendered their integrity 2 months prior. New ones remain an economic impossibility. Emma, 412 requires fresh linens, remarks Nurse Sandra Chen, her gaze fixed on a patient's chart. I'm on it. Emma's physical form moves with robotic efficiency, a vessel her consciousness has temporarily abandoned, a dissociative strategy she has recently perfected to endure her confinement. For 3 days, the invitation has occupied her thoughts, an artifact she can neither engage with nor discard. She propels the linen cart down the corridor, its wheels emitting a high-pitched complaint that mirrors her own internal state. Indeed, every ambient sound has become an assault. The incessant hum of fluorescent lights, the relentless beep of a call button, the muffled sounds of grief from behind a closed door. Emma operates as a machine, executing her tasks, replacing linens, monitoring 2 post-operative patients, replenishing 3 water pitchers, and assisting an elderly man. Her 12-hour shift concludes at 11 p.m., at which point her supervisor, Margaret, inquires if she might cover a portion of the following day's shift. We find ourselves severely understaffed, Margaret explains, her expression a study in practiced melancholy, confident in an affirmative response. Just for 4 hours? Emma's mind engages in the grim arithmetic of survival. Rent is due in 6 days, and the electricity bill demands attention. Yes, a voice she barely recognizes as her own responds. I can do that. You are a true lifesaver. Emma questions the validity of this statement. On most days, she struggles simply to preserve her own existence. She descends into the subterranean world of the subway, a near-vacant landscape populated by scattered figures adhering to the unspoken law of late-night New York transit. Thou shalt not make eye contact. Here, all are invisible by mutual consent, a state of being Emma has refined into an art form through a lifetime of practice. The train screams into the station, unleashing a wave of stagnant, oppressive air. She finds refuge in a rear seat and closes her eyes, seeking 20 minutes of profound emptiness. Yet the invitation resides in her bag, a palpable weight that registers deep in her bones. Her phone vibrates, displaying a message from her mother. Victoria requires your RSVP. The caterer needs a final head count. For a long minute, Emma stares at the screen's illuminated demand before extinguishing it, consigning her mother's text to a digital void. Emma's apartment building appears to be sustained by little more than collective resolve and a thin veneer of paint. The main entrance perpetually resists. The third-floor corridor is plunged in permanent darkness, and the elevator has been out of service for 2 months. Consequently, Emma must ascend 5 flights of stairs, her limbs trembling with accumulated fatigue. Upon entering apartment 5C, she lets her bag fall to the floor, forgoing the light switch. The glow from the streetlights provides sufficient illumination. She moves to the kitchenette, a designated corner of the living space, and fills a glass with water from the tap. The invitation remains precisely where she left it, leaning against a salt shaker. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Carter request the pleasure of your company at the marriage of their daughter, Victoria Ann Carter, to Mr. Ryan Christopher Blake. A tremor runs through Emma's hand as she sets down her glass. Ryan Blake, 3 years, an emotional investment of 3 years of her existence. She recalls the endless nights of conversation, the weekends spent exploring the urban landscape, the serene mornings in his opulent Tribeca apartment, a world financed by his family's wealth. There, she always felt a profound sense of dislocation, as if she were an actress in a life not her own. "I love you," he had professed, cradling her face as if she were made of glass. "My father's opinion is irrelevant. You are my desire." These were foundational lies. 2 weeks later, he began to evade her calls. 4 months after that, Victoria returned for the holidays with a new suitor, tall, handsome, and affluent. It all unfolded so quickly, she had effused, radiant with joy. Emma recognized him instantly. Across the expanse of the dinner table, Ryan offered her a single, vacant glance. In that hollow moment, the truth crystallized. He had made his selection. She was not, and had never been, the one. A more volatile spirit might have detonated, shattering a plate and exposing his treachery before the entire family. Instead, she excused herself, retreated to the bathroom, and wept in absolute silence. For this is Emma's nature. She contracts her presence. She internalizes her agony. She disappears. "Damn it," she breathes into the stillness of her apartment. The word is a shard of glass in the quiet. She repeats it with greater volume this time. Damn it. There is no one to hear, no one to care. Emma seizes the invitation, her intent to reduce it to fragments, but her hands refuse to obey. She collapses onto the worn sofa, a curbside acquisition from 3 years ago, and stares at the elegant script until it blurs. Her phone rings. She considers ignoring it, but the caller is her sister. "Hello, Emma. At last. I have been trying to reach you all day." Victoria's voice possesses the timbre of sunlight and inherited wealth, a sound that suggests a life of absolute ease. "Did you receive my text concerning the RSVP?" "Yes." A constriction forms in Emma's throat. "I am scheduled to work that weekend." "What? No, Emma, this is my wedding. Your presence is mandatory. You are my maid of honor." "I never consented to that role." "But of course you are. You are my sister. Whom else would I possibly ask?" Victoria emits a delicate laugh, the kind that has always served to reinforce Emma's status as an outsider. "Besides, Mother has already procured your dress. It is magnificent. Champagne-colored. It is only 1 day. Surely the hospital can function without you for a single day." Emma is consumed by the urge to refuse, to articulate the whole sordid truth, to witness the first crack in her sister's flawless composure. "I will see what can be arranged," is what she says instead. "Excellent. I knew I could rely on you. Oh, and our final fitting is on Tuesday. Are you available? 6 o'clock at that boutique in Soho. My shift ends at 7. Then you must leave early, Emma, please. This is my wedding. Victoria's tone acquires a sharp, imperious edge, a quality that emerges when her desires are thwarted. I need you there. No, Emma thinks. You require a prop for your stage. That is all I have ever been. I will try, she concedes. Wonderful. Love you, sister. The connection terminates before Emma can formulate a response. She remains seated in the encroaching darkness, the phone still pressed against her ear, contemplating the sensation of setting her entire existence ablaze. The following morning arrives with punishing speed and a complete lack of mercy. Emma's alarm shrieks at 5 a.m. She forces herself into the shower, allowing the water to run to a scalding temperature until the small water heater is exhausted. She dons the same freshly laundered scrubs from the previous night and consumes a protein bar with the texture of chalk. The day shift-led Patricia offers her a compassionate smile. You appear depleted. I am fine. Margaret informed me you are staying until 3. That is the current plan. Patricia pauses, then adopts a more confidential tone. You are aware that it is permissible to say no, correct? You already contribute more hours than anyone. Emma manufactures a smile. It is fine, truly. It was not fine. It was the furthest thing from fine. But Emma learned long ago that the declaration, "it's fine," is a far simpler transaction than conveying the truth. The morning dissolves into afternoon, marked by a ceaseless flow of patients. Emma changes beds, completes charts, dispenses medication, and offers her hand to individuals grappling with fear and isolation. She excels at this aspect of her duties, being a useful and invisible presence. By 2 p.m., she feels as though she is moving through a viscous medium. Her thoughts, her movements, the very clock on the wall, all seem to operate in slow motion, mocking her. Emma, are you all right? Sandra Chen asks, her expression laced with concern. You are completely vacant for a full 30 seconds. My apologies. Yes, I am okay. When did you last consume a meal? The question requires a moment of deep concentration. Breakfast, 11 hours ago. Take 15 minutes, get some nourishment. The hospital cafeteria is a cheerless, fluorescent-lit space in the basement, but its coffee is potent and its sandwiches are affordable. Emma procures both and retreats to a corner table. She is halfway through her meal when her phone issues a notification, a text from an unfamiliar number. It is a message from a ghost of a past life. Chelsea, Victoria's old university friend, extending an invitation to a bachelorette party. Emma's gaze shifts from the phone to her half-eaten, desolate sandwich. A fracture runs through her composure. Her internal response is an immediate, unequivocal rejection. I do not believe I can make it. The reply materializes with unsettling speed, a relentlessly cheerful message that feels like a physical blow. OMG! No, you must come. Allow me to call you. She silences her phone, burying it deep within her bag. The remainder of her shift is an indistinct haze. At 3 p.m., she clocks out, a hollowed-out automaton burdened by an exhaustion that has settled deep within her soul. The station platform was a maelstrom of humanity. Emma let 2 compressed carriages pass before surrendering to the third. Trapped against the glass, a stranger's briefcase digging into her ribs, she ritualistically ticked off each stop. Emerging into the overworld revealed a monochrome cityscape under a deluge. The downpour was an inevitability. Her umbrella had been taken from work 2 weeks ago. By the time her building appeared, she was saturated, her uniform a second sodden skin. Each step was a percussive, waterlogged sound of defeat. The 5 flights became a daily Sisyphean ascent. Inside, she shed the drenched layers, only to be confronted by the vacant gaze of a stranger in the mirror. The specter was pallid, defined by orbital shadows and hair begging for release, an anatomy of erosion, too angular here, too yielding there. When had the process of erasure begun? The shower was glacial, the water heater defunct again, so she donned sweatpants and a university shirt belonging to her ex, Ryan. She knew she should have incinerated his artifacts. Instead, she wore his memory. Sustenance was instant noodles consumed directly from the pot. Her window framed a tableau of an alternate existence. A family at dinner, mother, father, 2 children. The laughter, though unheard, was palpable. A tender gesture, a child's face cleansed, forced her to recoil. The approaching night was a vast, vacant expanse. The television offered only hypnotic flickers. The words in her book remained indecipherable glyphs. So she lay supine, cataloging the building's sonic tapestry. Footsteps from above, a muffled dispute in Spanish, a bass line vibrating through the floor. At 10 post-meridiem, with slumber and impossibility, she resolved to undertake a pilgrimage to the 24-hour bodega. The pretext was provisions, milk, bread, but the true objective was a moment of tangible existence. Perhaps the walk would induce unconsciousness. The Friday streets were desolate, the rain having driven everyone indoors. Emma moved with purpose, hands buried in pockets, hood obscuring her face. The bodega stood as a small atoll of light and warmth. She procured her items, paid the fatigued clerk, and returned to the gloom. It was then she saw it. A bus, poised across the avenue. This was not her transport. Yet illuminated like a mobile sanctuary, its doors agape, she felt compelled to sprint towards it. The driver, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, offered a small nod. A close call. "Thanks," Emma panted, swiping her card. The vehicle was nearly vacant. An old man slumbered up front. A young couple whispered in the middle. Emma sought the anonymity of the rear, collapsing into a window seat. The bus lurched forward. Resting her head on the cool glass, she watched the city dissolve into a blur. Her mind was a blank slate until the bus halted where no stop existed. 2 men boarded. A cold, sharp dread erupted in Emma's chest. Their entire presence was a dissonance. Their attire was incongruously expensive for this route. Their posture was rigid, hyper-alert, and their eyes were purely predatory, scanning the interior. The driver sensed it. "This is not a stop." "Just drive," the first man instructed, his tone a placid veneer over a core of steel. As the second man moved down the aisle, Emma saw the firearm tucked in his waistband, and the air evacuated her lungs. "Everybody remain calm," the first man announced. "We are simply looking for someone." The old man was now wide awake, hands raised. The couple clung to one another. The driver's knuckles were white on the wheel. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. The second man stalked the aisle, his eyes methodically inventorying each passenger. He reached the young couple and hauled the man up by his shirt. "Hey, what?" Silence. "Phone." The young man shakily complied. The gunman glanced at the screen, grunted, and shoved him back down. "Not him." He resumed his slow, menacing walk, his trajectory aimed directly at Emma. Her cognitive functions ceased. She was frozen. Her trembling hands gripped the seat. He stopped before her. His cold, dead eyes held her for what seemed an eternity. And then he walked right past her. "We are disembarking here," the man at the front ordered the driver. The bus veered onto a desolate industrial street Emma had never seen. The doors hissed open. "Let's go," the second gunman commanded someone in the Mac. Emma risked a glance and saw him hoisting a man in a ridiculously expensive suit to his feet. The suit was protesting in a low, furious tone she couldn't discern. He was pushed down the stairs and vanished. The doors sealed. The bus began to move. The silence was absolute until the old man up front began to sob softly. The driver pulled over at the next sanctioned stop. "Everyone out," she said, her voice unsteady. "I must call the police." Emma nearly fell from the bus, her legs feeling like foreign appendages. The other passengers dissolved into the darkness, wanting no part of official reports. She knew she should remain. She did not. She just walked. She was in a random part of the city, the street signs like an unfamiliar language. Her phone indicated a 40-minute walk home, so she walked. The rain intensified, plastering her hair to her head. She was only 2 blocks from her building when her surroundings became familiar, her body shaking from the adrenaline's retreat. 2 blocks to sanctuary, a warm shower, and a chance to erase the gunman's eyes from her mind. She was so focused on motion she failed to notice the car sliding to a halt beside her. The window descended. "You look as though you could use a ride." Emma's head snapped up. The driver was a man in his 40s, dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that perceived too much. He wore a suit that cost more than her annual rent. He looked at her with an intensity that made her feel entirely alone in the world. "I'm fine," she replied automatically. "You are drenched. It is 1 a.m, and you are in a neighborhood you do not know." His voice was smooth, with an accent she could not identify. "Allow me to give you a ride." "No, thank you." "I insist." The way he spoke made it clear it was not a negotiation. Her heart began to pound again. "I said no." The man regarded her for another long moment, then gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Fine, but take this." He held out a business card. "In case you reconsider." She pointedly ignored it, turned, and walked away more quickly. She heard the car's quiet hum as it finally departed. She did not slow her pace until her building's front door was locked behind her. She looked over her shoulder the entire way up the stairs, a raw fear clinging to her. Inside her apartment, she threw the deadbolt, slid the chain, and even braced a chair under the doorknob. Only then did she collapse onto the sofa, dripping and shaking uncontrollably. Her phone buzzed. Victoria. Rejected. It buzzed again. Her mother. Rejected. A text appeared. "Emma Christine Carter, answer your phone. We need to talk." Emma powered the device off and let it fall. On the counter, a wedding invitation sat, a pristine relic from a world that was no longer hers. With her eyes clamped shut, Emma tried to anchor herself to her own breathing. Rain pounded the city outside, where life was occurring. People finding love, constructing futures, simply existing. But not Emma Carter. She was a ghost in the dark, wondering if she was substantial. She awoke on the couch, clothes still damp, a sharp crick in her neck sending pain down her spine. Morning light fractured through the blinds. For an instant, she forgot the source of her emptiness. Then it all returned. The bus, the glint of steel, the man in the expensive car. She rose slowly, her stiff fingers fumbling with her soaked jacket. Her phone was where she had dropped it. She powered it onto a screen erupting with 17 missed calls and 23 texts. Emma deleted all of them unread. The shower was ice cold as usual. She needed to call the landlord about the water heater, but the freezing spray served to wash away the city's grime. She donned a fresh set of scrubs, braided her wet hair, and caught her reflection. A complete stranger stared back, pale, hollow, almost faded. "Get it together," she whispered to the image. When she arrived at the hospital, it was a scene of total, controlled chaos. A major pileup had flooded the emergency room, summoning staff from all over. Emma passed the first 4 hours of her shift in a complete haze, fetching supplies, applying pressure to wounds, and simply staying clear of the seasoned professionals. Around noon, the situation calmed enough for her to slip away for a moment. She was by the employee entrance, breathing in exhaust and trying to steady her hands, when her coworker Sandra appeared. "I've been trying to phone you." Emma pulled out her device, remembering she had silenced it after the incident on the bus. "Sorry, what is it?" Sandra wore a strange expression, a mix of worry and something else Emma could not decipher. "Someone is at the front desk asking for you." "Who is calling?" He declined to give a name, insisted it was urgent. A knot of cold dread tightens in Emma's gut. "I'm not anticipating anyone." "Listen, the vehicle he arrived in is worth more than my salary for 2 years," Sandra cuts in. "He has that certain aura, you understand? Like he's contemplating purchasing the hospital purely for amusement." The main lobby is a chaotic swirl of stressed relatives and patients. Emma's eyes sweep the area and find him instantly. It's the man from the previous night, leaning against the information desk with an air of ownership. His gaze is fixed on the elevators, and the moment she emerges, it locks with hers. Her first impulse is flight. Her second is to summon security. She acts on neither. Instead, she marches directly toward him, the beat of her heart a frantic drum in her ears, halting just beyond his personal space. "How did you locate me?" A faint smile touches his lips, yet it fails to warm his eyes. It's remarkable how simple it is to find a person, if one knows precisely where to search. "That fails to answer my question." "No," he concedes, "it does not." At this proximity, the man's intensity is even more pronounced. Impossibly sharp cheekbones, a jawline that seems sculpted from granite, and eyes the color of a turbulent sea. A fine scar bisects his left eyebrow, a minor imperfection that only enhances his sharp-edged appearance. "What is your purpose here?" Emma asks. "I merely wanted to confirm your safe return home." "I'm unharmed. You may depart now. Could we converse somewhere with more privacy?" "No." His smile broadens almost imperceptibly. "You are cautious. That is intelligent." "I am leaving," Emma declares, turning away from him. His hand flashes out, closing around her wrist. The hold isn't violent, but it's absolute, halting her movement completely. 5 minutes. That is the entirety of my request. Emma glances down at his hand encircling her arm. His hands are massive, the knuckles scarred from encounters with walls, or perhaps with people. "Release me." He complies at once, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. "I am not here to cause you harm." "Then why are you here?" "Because I believe you witnessed something on that bus last night." His voice deepens, a low current meant only for her. "And I believe you are intelligent enough to be afraid." Emma's throat is suddenly arid. "I have no idea what you are referring to." "Yes, you do." He reaches inside his coat. Emma recoils as he produces a plain business card. "My name is Adrian Castellano. If anyone questions you about yesterday, if anyone makes an approach, if any situation feels remotely unusual, you are to call me without delay." She gazes at the card. It is thick, expensive stock, bearing only an embossed name and number. "For what reason would I call you?" because the other individuals on that bus are not the sort of people from whom you want to attract attention. Adrian's expression is now utterly grave, the smirk having vanished. And you, Emma, have been observed. I saw nothing. I know nothing. I sincerely hope that is the truth. He presses the card into her palm, his skin a warm contrast to her frigid fingers. But if it is not, accept this, please. Emma battles the impulse to hurl the card at him, to demand clarifications, to simply cry out about how her life is already a catastrophe that requires no further complication from some enigmatic man. In its place, she slips the card into her pocket and turns away, not affording him a second look. She senses his gaze on her, a palpable pressure on her back, until the elevator doors slide shut. The remainder of her shift dissolves into a fog of mundane duties and frantic, paranoid ideation. Who is Adrian Castellano? How did he locate her? What in the world does observed signify? By the time she leaves at 7, her nerves are completely shredded. The subway journey home is a paranoid ordeal where every passenger seems a potential danger. The moment her apartment door is secured, she slumps against it, resting her forehead against the cool surface of the wood. The business card is a rigid rectangle in her pocket. She retrieves it, studies it for a full minute, then conceals it in a drawer as if to entomb the entire episode. Her phone chimes. It is her mother, yet again. This time, Emma decides to answer. Hello, Mom. Emma, thank goodness. I have been frantic with worry. Victoria mentioned you are ignoring all communications about the dress fitting, and Chelsea claims you are withdrawing from the bachelorette party. Mom, I am employed. I cannot simply abandon all my responsibilities. This is your sister's wedding, Emma. Your only sister. She is depending on you. Emma nearly suffocates on a humorless laugh. Is she? Truly? Really? What is the meaning of that remark? Nothing. I am simply exhausted. Can we discuss this at a later time? No, we cannot. The wedding is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Emma. You must pull yourself together. At that, some internal restraint within her simply gives way. Perhaps it was the fatigue. Perhaps it was the fear still coiled in her stomach from the bus and Adrian Castellano's ominous warning. Or perhaps it was 3 years of suppressing pure anguish. You wish to know why I have not responded? Why I am not thrilled to be Victoria's maid of honor? Ryan was my partner for 3 years, and then he simply vanished from my life. No calls, no messages. He just disappeared. And 4 months afterward, he appears at Christmas dinner with Victoria on his arm. A profound silence emanates from the other end of the line. You were aware, Emma breathes. This entire time you were aware, were you not? Her mother's voice, when it returns, is exceptionally strained. Ryan made his decision, Emma. He selected someone with whom he could construct a tangible future. Someone from his own world. Someone who is not me. Victoria is accomplished. She is beautiful. She is all the things I am not. Yes, Mom, I understand. I always have. That is not my intention. Yes, it is. Emma's voice fractures. It is always what you have intended. I am the daughter who failed to get into a prestigious college, the one earning minimum wage, cleaning up other people's messes, the family disgrace. Emma, cease being so melodramatic. I must go. Do not you dare terminate this call. Emma ends the conversation and powers down her phone entirely. She then proceeds to the kitchen, retrieves the wedding invitation from the counter, and begins to tear it into pieces. She shreds it into minuscule fragments, like confetti. The action feels satisfying. Not exceptional, but satisfying. She is sweeping the tiny remnants into a dustpan when a sharp rap sounds at her door. Emma goes rigid. No one ever raps on her door. She has no friends who would visit unannounced. She's unacquainted with her neighbors. Deliveries are left in the lobby. A second rap, more forceful this time. She moves silently to the door and peers through the peephole. A man is standing in the hallway. It is not Adrian Castellano. This individual is younger, with a severe buzz cut and a physique forged by years in a gymnasium. Emma Carter. His voice reverberates through the door. She remains perfectly still. I only have a few questions regarding what you witnessed last night. On the bus. A chill permeates her entire body. It will not be long, nothing to be concerned about. But her every instinct is screaming that this is a dire situation. A police officer would have identified himself as such. Another witness would not have traced her to her private residence. Adrian's admonition resounds in her mind. If any situation feels wrong, you are to call me. Emma retreats from the door, holding her breath. The man began knocking again with significantly more force. Then she caught the sound of him speaking to another person. Wonderful, there were two of them. Footsteps receded down the corridor. She marked the passage of seconds, waiting 5 minutes, then 10. At last, with trembling hands, she took out Adrian's card and placed the call. He picked up before the first ring completed. Emma, how did you know it was me? I was anticipating your call. Report the situation to me. She recounted everything. The man at her door, his inquiries, the visceral sensation that screamed danger. The words tumbled out in a panicked rush, but Adrian listened in complete silence. When she had finished, there was a brief, sharp, quiet, "Secure your door. Do not open it for any person. I am dispatching someone to your location immediately." Someone? What? Emma listened and listened carefully. The men who took that person from the bus are employed by a significant figure, one who despises loose ends, and at this moment you are a loose end. Her legs felt like they had turned to water. She sank onto the couch. I did not see anything. I possess no knowledge. I am aware, he said, but they are not, and their search will not cease until they are certain. His tone softened slightly. I am able to protect you, but you must place your trust in me. Can you do that? Emma saw her vacant apartment, her dead-end employment, her family who viewed her as a liability. She saw a future of being unseen, of not mattering, of being easily erased. Why does this concern you? She asked. Adrian hesitated for a moment. I do not yet possess that answer, but it does. The stark honesty in his voice completely unsettled her. It was as if he were as taken aback by his own statement as she was. All right, she murmured. A black sport utility vehicle is arriving at your building as we speak. The driver's name is Marcus. He is transporting you to a secure location. Where? To my location. Emma moved toward the window, observing the street below. Exactly as he had stated, a dark sport utility vehicle with blacked-out windows was parked at the curb. As she observed, a man exited, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned, in a suit that struggled to contain his frame. I can see him. Good, pack a bag, only what is essential. You will not be returning to this place for some time. The gravity of her circumstances finally registered like a physical impact. Adrian, I have a job. I will manage it. Trust me. Emma felt the urge to resist, to label the entire situation as absurd. to refuse to flee from her own life based on the word of a man she encountered once during a downpour. But she visualized the man at her door, recalled the sensation of the weapon on the bus, and saw the warning in Adrian's eyes. "Allow me 5 minutes," she stated. She packed a bag in a daze, collecting jeans, shirts, undergarments, the one formal dress she never had occasion to wear, her toothbrush, a phone charger, and the framed photograph of her and her grandmother from her bedside table. As an afterthought, she also grabbed Ryan's old t-shirt and tucked it inside. Her confusion was absolute. In the lobby stood Marcus, an emissary from a new, violent reality. He was a monolith of a man, easily 6'4", his neck marked by a scar, and his gaze missing nothing. "Miss Carter," his voice was an unexpectedly soft current. "I am Marcus Webb. Mr. Castellano dispatched me to guarantee your protection." He mentioned that. Emma adjusted her bag. "And our destination? A protected place, this way." The vehicle was a silent, armored capsule. Marcus merged into the flow of cars, his focus perpetually on the reflections. "How long have you worked for Adrian?" Emma's question was a probe into the unnerving quiet. 8 years. "And his profession? What does Adrian actually do?" In the mirror, Marcus's eyes met hers. "He mitigates problems." "That explains nothing." "It is the only explanation permitted, ma'am." For 20 minutes, they journeyed from her familiar world into Manhattan's core. The architecture became a landscape of power, of sharp, impossibly costly spires. As Marcus entered a subterranean garage beneath a tower of glass, fear solidified in Emma's gut. Access to the elevator was restricted. Marcus used his key card, selecting the penthouse. It had to be the penthouse. The elevator revealed a space that was less a home than a testament to wealth. Expansive windows framed the city, a backdrop for a curated world of monochrome furniture and priceless art. By the glass stood Adrian, concluding a call with a few terse words as they entered. "Emma, I am pleased you are here." "I am not convinced a choice was involved." "There is always a choice." A nod sent Marcus away, and with the closing doors, Adrian's focus became absolute. "Are you all right?" "I do not know what I am anymore." Her bag hit the floor, her arms a defensive barrier. "Are you planning to explain any of this?" Adrian moved to a bar, pouring 2 glasses of an amber liquid. He offered one. "Whiskey. It seems appropriate." Emma accepted the glass, her thirst for answers greater. "I require an explanation, a reasonable demand." Adrian sipped his own, considering his words. "The men you saw are agents of the Vulov family, a Russian syndicate. They were retrieving an asset David Chen, who had embezzled from their laundering operations. He siphoned $2 million. Adrian's expression was a perfect void. "They located him 3 days prior. Last night was the collection." A tremor returned to Emma's hands, forcing her to set down the glass. "And they believe I am a witness. It is a matter of thoroughness, of eliminating potential identification. So they intend to murder every person on that bus?" Her voice strained. "That is madness." "That is the reality of this world." Adrian's tone turned glacial. "A world that operates beyond justice, where liabilities are simply severed." Emma sank into a chair. "I feel ill." "Breathe," he commanded. She tried. She attempted the breathing exercises prescribed for panic, but they offered no relief. "Why involve yourself?" she managed to ask. "We are strangers. This has nothing to do with you." Adrian took the seat opposite her. "Because I understand the Vulovs. I understand their methods, and I can state with certainty that without my intervention, your life expectancy is 48 hours. God, I realize this is a significant burden to process. Emma's laugh was sharp, bordering on hysteria. Significant is an understatement. She covered her face. This feels unreal, impossible. I wish it were otherwise, he said, meeting her gaze. What is your true identity? Adrian reclined, shadows defining his features. I am an operator within the Vulov's sphere, one with the capacity to prevent your death. That remains an evasion. I am aware. His stare was unflinching. My firm provides security consultation, highly discreet. We manage issues for a clientele that cannot use conventional methods. So you operate outside the law? I navigate the moral ambiguities that society prefers to ignore. Fear should have been her response. Instead, a pragmatic question emerged. Are you capable of protecting me? Yes. The word was delivered as fact, devoid of hesitation or assurance. Emma consumed the whiskey in a single searing swallow. All right. What is our strategy? You will remain here, under protection. Marcus is on site, with 2 others monitoring access. The Vulovs cannot reach you. And the duration? Whatever is required. I have a career, Adrian, a life. I informed your employer of a family crisis requiring your absence. Your rent and utilities are settled for the year. Emma could only stare. You had no right. I had the necessity, therefore I acted. He rose and moved to the window, observing the cityscape. Your former life created this vulnerability. This new one ensures your survival. That is not your decision to make. Correct, he conceded, turning to face her. It is yours. Remain here in safety while I neutralize the Vulovs. Or depart, return to your home, and gamble on their indifference. The illusion of choice was stark. Both understood. Emma stood, unsteady. Where are my quarters? A subtle shift softened Adrian's features. Second door to your left. The facilities are supplied. My room is nearby. She retrieved her bag and moved toward the bedroom, pausing at the threshold. Why did you intervene last night? You could have ignored me. Adrian paused, contemplating. I am uncertain. You projected an aura of trauma, a desperate need for acknowledgement. His gaze locked with hers. And I acknowledged you. A knot formed in Emma's throat. She nodded once, then retreated into the bedroom to conceal her emotion. The space was a vast, impersonal luxury suite. It contained a massive bed, a panoramic view, and abstract paintings. It was a perfect opulent and alien environment. Emma locked the door, let her bag fall, and collapsed onto the bed. The inert phone was less a device and more a detonator, poised to trigger the fallout from a life she had just incinerated. Powering it on meant facing the digital shrapnel of her past. A barrage of maternal concern and Victoria's textual fury. A coordinated assault from the world she'd abandoned. She pressed the button. The screen illuminated a battlefield. 43 missed calls. 61 messages. Emma scanned the list with a profound detachment. Her mother's panic, Victoria's rage, anxious inquiries from colleagues, and then a name. Ryan. Her thumb hesitated above it, a silent debate against self-inflicted pain. She opened it. I hear you involved your mother. A low blow, Emma. Victoria is devastated. Can you not just permit us our happiness? She absorbed the poison 3 times, a shard of ice crystallizing in her heart. Her reply was a single, concise condemnation. Go to hell! With a tremor in her hands, she began the digital exorcism. His number was obliterated. Victoria's annihilated, her mother's purged. The screen then fell dark. In the ensuing quiet, Emma felt the city's pulse, a million lives unfolding, oblivious to the fact that the architecture of her own existence had collapsed into ruin. She coiled on the sofa, clad in her work uniform, gazing at a vacant wall until her eyes ached. Sleep was an impossible sanctuary. She was ensnared in a recurring sequence of trauma. The bus, the glint of steel, Adrian's cautionary words, the ominous figure at her door. It was a torment played on a continuous loop. Shortly after midnight, a quiet domesticity punctured the turmoil. The sound of footsteps, the flow of water. Adrian moving through the space as if the universe remained perfectly intact. Emma contemplated the nature of his existence, to navigate the world with such understated authority, such potent influence, where one's words became immutable fact. She wondered about the sensation of not being invisible. Around 200 a.m., the weight of exhaustion finally claimed her. Her subconscious wove a tapestry of anxieties, missed transports, elevators without doors, and the sensation of drowning while indifferent crowds passed by. She awoke to a sliver of dawn and a gentle knock. "Emma, are you awake?" Adrian's voice was low, careful. She sat up, disoriented, a fire in her neck from her contorted slumber. "Yes, I'm awake." "I have made coffee and food if you're inclined." An audible protest from her stomach provided its own answer. She struggled to recall her last meal, save for a dismal cafeteria sandwich. "Allow me 5 minutes." She entered a bathroom sculpted from cold marble. The linens were impossibly plush. The soap alone likely held more monetary value than her rent. She attempted to restore a semblance of humanity to her reflection and was largely unsuccessful. Her hair was a chaotic nest, her scrubs a map of wrinkles, and the shadows beneath her eyes resembled dark contusions. When she emerged, Adrian was the kitchen, wearing jeans and a black t-shirt that fit with an unnerving precision, his hair still damp. He observed her, and a faint smile touched his lips. "You look exhausted." "Thank you. The compliment every woman dreams of." The smile widened. "You carry an aura of profound exhaustion. When did you last experience a truly restorative sleep?" The question made Emma pause. "I honestly can't recall. In that case, your sole duty today is to eat and rest. Banish all thought." He pushed a plate of eggs, toast, and fruit toward her. "Sit." Too depleted to resist, she complied, an unexpected wave of hunger rising within her. The simple fare tasted celestial, surpassing anything she had consumed in months. Adrienne filled her coffee mug, then observed her from across the counter. "What?" she mumbled, her mouth full. "Nothing. It's simply gratifying to witness someone savoring their food. When one subsists on instant noodles and protein bars," she admitted, "this is a 5-star experience." A flicker of something, pity perhaps, or a deeper sentiment crossed his eyes. "That way of life is over for you now." Emma's fork clattered onto her plate. "I am not a charity project. I never suggested you were. Then cease treating me as one." Their gazes locked, the atmosphere crackling with sudden tension. Adrian raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. "You are correct. My error." Emma resumed eating, her indignation slightly cooled. They remained in silence as the city stirred to life outside. "May I ask you a question?" Emma broke the quiet. "Always. Why does one person occupy a residence of this magnitude alone?" Adrian surveyed the space, as if for the first time. "I don't know. I suppose I require the volume, the space to process." His attention returned to her. It does become lonely, however. Is that how your own home felt? Persistently lonely, Emma confessed, before she could censor the thought. A visible softness transformed Adrian's features, his defenses lowering for an instant. Not here, not while you are here. The sentiment should have registered as a trite overture, the kind designed to elicit caution. Instead, it resonated like a vow. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Emma did not feel ethereal. 3 days passed in a strange, muted haze. Emma slept more deeply than she had in years, awakening each morning in the immense bed to the surreal nature of her circumstances. The apartment became her silent refuge by day. Adrian departed before sunrise and returned after sunset, his first act always a check-in. "Have you eaten?" he would inquire. "Yes. Did anyone disturb you?" "No." "Good." These brief exchanges became their ritual. Occasionally he would linger, asking about her day or offering a stray detail of his. More often he would retreat to his office, a phantom until dawn. Emma explored the penthouse as if it were a museum in which she was confined. She discovered a library with shelves stretching to the ceiling, an immaculate gym that appeared untouched, and a terrace she lacked the courage to step onto, intimidated by the dizzying height. The entire residence was stunning, opulent, and utterly devoid of a soul, as though Adrian had commissioned a designer to construct a life he never intended to inhabit. On the 4th morning, she discovered him in the kitchen, laptop open beside a cold mug of coffee. "You look terrible," she remarked. He glanced up, his eyes bloodshot. "My thanks. Did you get any sleep?" "Not particularly." Emma poured her own coffee and took the seat opposite him. "What is your current project?" "You." A knot of dread formed in her stomach. What is that supposed to signify? Adrian closed the laptop with a snap and rubbed his face. "The Volofs. I'm trying to devise a way to remove you from their awareness. It is not a simple task. Every aspect of your situation is a complication." Emma clutched her warm mug. "Explain it to me regardless." He studied her for a long moment as if gauging her capacity for the truth. "They are making inquiries, tracing every passenger from that bus. Thus far, 2 have disappeared. 1 was recovered from the East River yesterday." The coffee soured in her stomach. "Oh, God. I have circulated the word that you are under my protection. That should afford us some time." "Should?" "The Volofs and I. We maintain a certain accord. We avoid interfering in each other's affairs. But this," he gestured to their surroundings, "is my direct involvement. I have now become a problem. You are a complication." "And the distinction is?" Adrian offered a smile that was pure ice. "Problems are eliminated. Complications simply require a revised plan." Emma set her mug down before her trembling hands could betray her fear. "You speak of people dying as if it's mere commerce. Because in my world," he stated, "it is. Your world is insane." "Yes," he concurred, his tone chillingly matter-of-fact. "It is." They sat in a dense silence. Outside, the city roared with traffic and sirens, the ordinary sounds of ordinary lives. "I have to know," Emma said finally, "and I require the truth." "Agreed. Are you manipulating me? Is this entire situation a strategic play against the Volovs?" Adrian's posture became rigid. "Is that your assessment?" "I don't know what to believe. You materialize from nowhere. You knew my precise location. You wield this incredible influence. It all seems far too opportune, giving you leverage." "You believe you constitute leverage?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Am I mistaken? He surged from his chair, turning his back to her to gaze out the window. When he spoke again, his voice was strained with an unreadable emotion. That night, seeing you in the rain, looking as if you had absorbed one too many of life's blows, I faced a choice. I could have driven past, remained uninvolved, and allowed events to unfold as they would. But you chose not to. No. He turned to face her. Because you reminded me of someone who was destroyed by powerful men devoid of conscience. And I thought, perhaps for once I could do more than merely endure. Perhaps I could intervene. Who did I remind you of? Adriana's jaw clenched. My sister, before her death. The words hung between them, heavy with an ancient grief. I'm sorry, Emma whispered. It was a long time ago. He approached the table but remained standing. The truth, Emma, is that you entered my life at the most inopportune moment. I was already investigating the Volovs for my own reasons, and then you appeared. A witness, vulnerable and with nowhere to turn. The logical move was to have Marcus secure you somewhere safe and then erase you from my mind. So why did you not depart? Because I was physically incapable. His gaze met hers, stripped of all artifice. The moment our eyes met on that street, a fundamental shift occurred within me, and I have no framework for understanding it. A frantic rhythm began against Emma's ribs. This is madness. I am aware. We are strangers to one another. I am aware, he reiterated, moving closer. But I wish to alter that fact. Is that not insane? Entirely. Speak the word, and I will withdraw. I will manage the Volovs, ensure your safety, and when it concludes, you may vanish. I will not pursue you. Emma envisioned her meager apartment, her draining occupation, and a family whose contact was purely transactional. She contemplated her own invisibility, the daily act of fading away. Yet what if I don't want you to retreat? The words escaped her, unbidden. Adrienne became perfectly still. Well, then we are facing a problem. I thought I was only a complication. You are both. He closed the remaining distance between them, his presence electric. This cannot proceed, Emma. My life, my nature. This is not some shallow pool for you to test. This is the entire ocean, total immersion or nothing. Perhaps I am weary of nothing. You have no comprehension of what you are saying. Do not presume to tell me what I know. She rose to her feet, meeting his intensity. My whole existence has been an exercise in shrinking and being quieter and apologizing for taking up space. And it has led me here, to nowhere, with no one. So perhaps madness is what I require. Adrian's hand rose, his fingers cupping her jaw, his thumb tracing her cheek. I cannot offer you safety, he confessed. And I certainly cannot provide a conventional life. Safety, she murmured back, was never a priority. Convention was the last thing she desired. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I just need to feel that I exist. You already do. Then prove it. The kiss was neither gentle nor tentative. It was a raw, desperate collision, as if a dam within him had finally burst. Emma answered with equal intensity, her hands bunching his shirt, pulling him closer. When they parted for air, breathless, Adrian pressed his forehead to hers. This is a monumentally poor decision, the absolute worst, Emma replied. 1 week. She drew back, her gaze fixed on his. What? Grant me 1 week to show you the reality of this world, the truth of it, not sequestered in this apartment, but out there, at my side. If after that week you still wish to leave, I will release you. I will ensure your safety, establish you somewhere new, and you will never see me again. And if I choose to stay?" His smile was slow and acutely dangerous. Then he said, "We discover the true depth of this rabbit hole." Emma knew the logical, rational answer was a firm refusal. Instead, she heard herself ask, "So when do we begin?" "Tonight?" Adrian's phone vibrated. A single glance at the screen turned his expression to granite. "I must handle something. Wait for me here. Marcus is downstairs if you require anything." "What sort of something?" "The Volovs. I am meeting with Dmitri. He is the patriarch of the family. He asserts his dominion, declaring her a territory he will defend." A cold wave of dread washed through Emma's core. Is this dangerous? His response is a thesis on his existence. Everything is. He placed a fleeting kiss on her forehead. "I will return by dinner for our evening out." Where? The destination remains a mystery. His departure left her suspended in a maelstrom of thought, haunted by the ghost of his touch. She sought refuge in the pages of a book, but the words were a meaningless blur. The television offered only hollow, fabricated narratives. Finally, she surrendered to pacing the confines of his apartment, her phone a useless totem in a world where she had no one to contact. At approximately 3 in the afternoon, Marcus appeared, bearing provisions. "Mr. Castellano arranged for these," he announced, placing the bags on the kitchen island. "He presumed you might feel inclined to prepare a meal." Emma could only gaze at the contents: fresh produce, prime cuts of meat, artisan butter. "He anticipates every need, does he not?" "It is his nature." Marcus hesitated at the doorway. "May I speak candidly, Miss Carter?" "Emma?" "I have served Mr. Castellano for 8 years. I have witnessed his interactions with many individuals. The way he observes you is entirely unprecedented." "Is that intended as a warning?" "It is merely an observation." Marcus's features were an unreadable mask. He is a moral man operating within an immoral enterprise. Endeavor to recall that when circumstances become complicated. After his exit, Emma began to unpack, contemplating her options. She was no culinary artist, having never been afforded the space or tools for such pursuits in her own meager kitchen. But Adrian's kitchen was a chef's paradise, outfitted with elite appliances and lethally sharp instruments. She decided on pasta carbonara, an exercise in simple elegance. By 6:30, the scent of garlic and cured meat permeated the apartment, a table meticulously set for 2. He paused abruptly at the entrance, absorbing the domestic tableau. "You prepared a meal?" "Attempt to contain your astonishment. I possess a few hidden talents, so it would appear." He removed his jacket, loosening the knot of his tie. "How did your day unfold?" "It was uneventful. Nothing of note occurred." "And your conference with Dmitri?" Adrian's expression became a void. "It was productive." "That fails to be a genuine answer." "A pact was forged. He will no longer be an issue. In return, a debt is owed to him." A knot of ice formed in the pit of Emma's stomach. What is the nature of this debt? The kind that is settled when its time comes. He moved toward the table, pulling out her chair for her. "For the moment, let us dine. This appears extraordinary." The pasta was competent, not spectacular, but satisfying. They conversed about trivialities, and Emma, defying all logic, felt a sense of ease begin to settle over her. Adrian possessed a cynical wit that continually disarmed her, and when a genuine smile broke through his reserve, it transformed his entire countenance. After their meal, he vanished into his room, returning with the black dress. "This is for you," he stated, presenting it to her. Emma accepted it, the expensive silk cool against her skin. What is our precise destination? We are going dancing. I lack the ability to dance, as do I. It is a process we will navigate together. The garment fit her as if it were tailored for her, a feat of impossible foresight, as Adrian had never inquired about her measurements. Emma gazed at her own reflection, seeing a stranger staring back. The dress was a study in sophisticated allure, revealing enough to entice without sacrificing class. She located Adrian in the living room, clad in a suit that likely exceeded her annual income. He surveyed her with a slow, deliberate appreciation, his gaze deepening. "You look exquisite." A faint blush colored Emma's cheeks. "You're not so unappealing yourself." "Let's go," he urged. "We are running behind schedule." The club was situated in a district of Manhattan Emma had never witnessed, the sort of establishment whose entrance was a secret kept for the initiated. The interior was a world of low lighting, smooth jazz, and patrons who seemed to have stepped from the pages of a fashion magazine. Adrian guided her through the dense crowd, his hand a proprietary weight on the small of her back. She observed the way others watched them, or more accurately, him, with a cocktail of deference and fear, as if they understood the full scope of his identity and capacity. He escorted them to a secluded booth at the rear. A server materialized instantly with champagne he had not visibly summoned. Compliments of the house. "Mr. Castellano, my thanks, Diane." Once they were alone, Emma arched a brow. "Do you frequent this place?" I upped the proprietor. "Of course you are." A smirk touched his lips as he poured 2 glasses. To new chapters. Emma touched her glass to his, and to profoundly poor choices. The champagne was sublime, far superior to anything she had ever tasted. Effervescent bubbles danced on her tongue. On the floor, couples moved in time with the band's sultry, languid tempo. "Tell me of your sister," Emma ventured after a moment. Adrian's smile evaporated entirely. "That is a somber subject for a first outing." "Is that the nature of this? An outing?" "I am not certain what else it could be called." "Then tell me," she insisted. "It is something I must understand." He remained silent for a considerable time, his focus lost in his glass. Her name was Sophia. She was my junior by 4 years. Exceptionally intelligent, she embraced life and aspired to be an educator. His jaw clenched. "We were raised in Queens. Our father was an ordinary man, a construction laborer when work was available. Our mother was a domestic cleaner. We had little, but for the most part we were content. What transpired? I became involved with the wrong circle of people. I was executing minor operations for a local syndicate, earning substantial money, more in a single week than my father saw in a month. I believed I was being clever, providing for my family." A bitter laugh escaped him. "I was 17 and a complete fool." Emma remained patient, sensing the narrative was incomplete. Sophia discovered my activities and pleaded with me to stop. An argument ensued. She threatened to inform our parents. Adrian's knuckles turned white as he gripped his glass. The men I worked for learned of this and deemed her a risk. They abducted her from the street one afternoon as she walked home from school. 3 days later, her remains were discovered in a dumpster in the Bronx. "Adrian, I eliminated all of them," he said in a low voice. "Every last individual involved. The process took me 2 years, but I ensured each one paid their debt. When the task was complete, I discovered I had an aptitude for it, a talent for identifying problems and erasing them, for becoming the man other men fear." Emma reached out, placing her hand over his. "I am deeply, truly sorry. Do not be. This is the path I chose. I constructed this empire with these 2 hands." His eyes met hers. "There are times I contemplate what might have been had I simply walked away. Had I been ordinary, you would have been utterly miserable." A startled laugh broke from him. "What leads you to that conclusion?" "Because individuals like us do not belong in that ordinary world. We are too fractured, possessing too many sharp edges. A conventional life would feel like a slow form of asphyxiation." Emma squeezed his hand. "In this life, at least, you are unbound." Adrian looked at her as if truly perceiving her for the first time. "How is it possible for you to comprehend what I am?" "It's because I don't. It terrifies me." She finished her drink in one motion, but my entire existence has been a state of terror while adhering to the rules, and consider the outcome. So perhaps it is time to embrace being terrified and utterly reckless. You're nothing like I anticipated. Good. Anticipation is a kind of prison. The music's character shifted, becoming slower, more personal. Adrian rose and extended his hand. "Dance with me? I have already told you I am not a dancer, and I have already told you we will navigate it together." On the floor, he drew her near, one hand at her waist, the other entwined with hers. Emma had always been graceless while dancing, trapped in her own mind, hyper-aware of her movements, but with Adrian, none of that self-consciousness surfaced. He led with an assured calm, and she simply surrendered to his motion, their forms moving as if they had practiced this ritual 100 times before. "This is pleasant," she murmured into his shoulder. "It is? But tomorrow I require the truth, the complete truth, about your profession, about the real implications of being involved with you." Adrian pulled back just enough to meet her gaze. "Are you certain?" "No, but I am asking you nonetheless." "Very well," he conceded. "Tomorrow you will have the truth." He kissed her on the temple. "But for this moment, this is all that exists." They remained there until Emma's feet ached and the champagne had clouded her thoughts. Adrian escorted her home, to the penthouse she was beginning to dangerously consider her own, and saw her to the very threshold of her bedroom. "My gratitude," Emma whispered, "for this evening, for granting me this opportunity." Her kiss was unhurried and profound, leaving them both struggling for breath. When she broke away, Adrian's eyes were dark with an undeniable hunger. "Just 1 week," she murmured, a reminder to them both. 1 week, he affirmed, his voice a low vibration. Emma slipped into her room, closing the door against a heart that hammered at her ribs. She sensed his presence in the hall for a moment longer before his footsteps receded. After changing, she lay staring at the ceiling, her life now cleaved into 2 distinct eras, everything before Adrian and everything that would follow. Tomorrow the facts would be presented. Tomorrow she would face the choice of whether she could survive in his world. But for this one night, she allowed herself the sensation of being wanted, of being seen, of being someone who mattered. And for the first time in an age, Emma fell asleep smiling. She awoke to a sun-drenched room and the aroma of brewing coffee. For a brief instant, she savored the comfort, the silence, the serenity. Then the gravity of the day descended upon her. This was the day Adrian would unveil the full reality of his life and the price of her entry into it. Dressed in jeans and a new shirt he had somehow manifested, Emma discovered him in the kitchen, engrossed in his tablet. "Morning," he greeted, his gaze fixed on the screen. "Morning." She poured a coffee and took a seat opposite him. So, the truth. Adrian placed his tablet aside, affording her his undivided attention. What is it that you must comprehend? Everything. Begin with your actual profession, the unvarnished version. He inhaled slowly. I operate a network that resolves issues for exceedingly wealthy and influential clients. At times, this involves providing security. On other occasions, it is the acquisition of information, and sometimes it entails making specific individuals vanish. Vanish? Emma echoed. You mean you eliminate them? Periodically, not in every case. But yes, that is an aspect of the occupation. A cold weight formed in Emma's stomach, but her tone remained firm. How many individuals have you personally eliminated? Are you certain you desire that figure? Yes. 23, with my own 2 hands. The sum is greater if you include those I commanded. 23. The number reverberated in her mind as she struggled to reconcile it with the man who had prepared her breakfast, the man who had danced with her. Do you experience regret? For some of them. The others received their due. His eyes remained fixed on hers. I understand how that must register. I know you perceive a monster. I perceive someone multifaceted. That is a generous interpretation. Emma clutched her mug as if it were a lifeline. Inform me about the Vulovs, what you did to guarantee my safety. Dmitri required assurance that you were not a liability. I provided him your call history, your work itinerary, your entire life presented for his review. I established you were precisely as you appeared, an ordinary person caught in the wrong circumstances, and he accepted it. He determined the favor I owed him held more value than your removal. Adrian's expression hardened. I made it unequivocally clear that if his men so much as harmed you, I would reduce his whole operation to ash. You would have followed through. Yes. The profound certainty in his voice sent a tremor through Emma's very core. What is this favor he holds over you? I do not know yet. That is the nature of such arrangements. He will redeem it when he requires something, and I will be obligated to comply. That does not frighten you. Everything frightens me, Emma. I am simply more adept at concealing it than most. She observed him from across the table, this man who had terminated 23 lives, who commanded a criminal syndicate, who had inverted her reality in less than a week? Why me? And do not offer me the excuse about your sister? What is your true motivation for all of this? Adrian remained silent for a considerable time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with feeling. Because I looked at you and I saw a person whom life had battered, but who steadfastly refused to be defeated. Someone who was entitled to far more than the world had ever offered. And a thought occurred to me that perhaps if I could assist you, provide you a genuine opportunity, it might begin to restore some balance. For all the harm I have caused, all the shadow, perhaps a solitary act of good could hold some meaning. I am not your path to absolution, Adrian. I am aware, but you could be the catalyst for me to begin seeking it. Emma's throat constricted. She rose and moved to the window, gazing at the sprawling city below. If I remain, if I proceed with this week and all that follows, what does that make me? You would be someone who chose to truly live rather than merely to exist. I would be a confederate in your affairs. Yes, he conceded softly, you would. She pivoted to face him. Then you must understand this. I will not become some syndicate wife who feigns ignorance of her husband's activities. If I am part of this, I am fully committed. I will be privy to your business. I will have views on it, and I will likely drive you to utter distraction. A slow, authentic smile spread across Adrienne's face. I am depending on it. I am serious. I will not contort myself to fit the confines of your world. I would never require you to. He crossed the room to her, closing the distance and taking her hands. I am drawn to you precisely as you are. The way you challenge my falsehoods, the way you decline to be intimidated, the way you perceive me as a man, not merely some nocturnal predator, but you are a monster. I know, yet you perceive something additional in me as well, something more. Adrian drew her into an embrace, resting his chin upon her hair. 1 week. That was our agreement. 6 days remain for you to determine if you can truly coexist with all of this. Emma encircled his waist with her arms, clinging to him like a life preserver. What is the agenda for today? I have a meeting this afternoon which is immovable. Accompany me. Witness what my life truly entails. Is that prudent? Marcus will be present along with 3 other men I would entrust with my life. You will be secure. Emma drew back to look him in the eyes. You are truly prepared to show me the unseemly parts? You said you desired honesty. This is its appearance. 2 hours hence, Emma was seated in the rear of Adrienne's vehicle, with Marcus at the wheel, en route to a warehouse in Brooklyn. She was dressed in new attire, dark denim, and a leather jacket he had materialized, paired with heeled boots that lent her a sense of danger. You appear petrified, Adrienne noted from beside her. I am. Excellent. Fear enhances your awareness. He squeezed her hand reassuringly. Remain directly beside me. Do not speak unless I make an introduction. And if I signal for you to depart, you leave with Marcus without delay. No protestations. You are certainly promoting this outing. A faint smile touched his lips. I simply need you to comprehend what you are entering. The warehouse was a perfect underworld archetype. Gray, industrial, and emanating a hostile energy. Marcus stopped at a side door where 2 men in suits stood guard. They offered Adrienne a deferential nod and deliberately avoided looking at Emma. The interior was an unusual configuration, resembling an office with desks and computers, where individuals worked in silence. Nevertheless, an atmosphere of restrained violence permeated the air. Adrienne guided her through the area with a hand at the small of her back, and Emma felt the gaze of every single person upon her. She maintained a straight posture and a neutral expression, a facade she had mastered in the hospital during critical situations. Their path concluded in a conference room where 3 men were already in attendance. All 3 individuals rose as Adrienne came in. Following brief greetings, their attention uniformly shifted to Emma. This is Emma, Adrienne stated. Without ceremony, she is with me. That appeared to be a sufficient explanation. They acknowledged with a nod and resumed their seats. The meeting concerned logistics, shipping particulars, payment arrangements, and a complication with a client in Miami. Emma paid close attention, attempting to decipher their coded discourse. It gradually dawned on her they were not discussing automotive components. They were discussing firearms, a very substantial consignment of them. Adrienne conducted the meeting with a cool proficiency, making swift decisions and issuing commands. It was another facet of him, more remote, hardened, and vastly more calculating. The man who had prepared her breakfast that morning was a phantom. After the meeting concluded and they were in private, Adrienne focused on her. Are you all right? You deal in armaments, among other things. To whom? To individuals who require them for purposes I do not investigate. Emma's mind was reeling. This is overwhelming. I know. He led her from the warehouse to the vehicle. We can stop this. Return to the apartment. Pretend this week never occurred. But Emma simply shook her head in refusal. She had requested this to witness his reality. No. Reveal everything to me. Adrian held her gaze for an intense moment, then gave a decisive nod. Very well. The next destination. They visited 3 additional locations that afternoon, a nightclub serving as a front for laundering illicit funds. The curriculum of Adrian's world progressed. A judiciary bought over cocktails followed by a transaction in the concrete shadows of a garage, a ritual Emma actively worked to unsee. Upon their return to the penthouse, darkness had fallen and pounding had begun in Emma's skull. I require a drink, a substantial one, she stated. Adrian poured whiskey for them both. They sat within the stillness, observing the city's pulsing lights. Well, he eventually began, severing the silence. What is your assessment? Emma emptied her glass in a single motion. You were not exaggerating. Your existence is intricate. That is a mild description. I must be clear I cannot condone what I've observed. The weaponry, the illicit funds, the visceral fear you command. At last, she pivoted to face him. However, I also witnessed you orchestrate it with more intellect and finesse than any CEO in the legitimate world. You are not a simple thug. You are a profound strategist, a veritable genius. Is that meant to grant absolution? It does not grant absolution, it grants authenticity. Emma rose and approached the window. I observed you presiding over your kingdom all day, and do you know the recurring thought I had? What was it? That I desired entry. A wild, manic laugh erupted from her. I am losing my sanity, I recognize it. But observing you dominate that space, seeing the alchemy of respect and terror you command, I was drawn to the phenomenon. I wanted to possess that type of power. Adrian moved to stand behind her, his hands coming to rest on her shoulders. You possess that exact type of power over me. I understand that, she murmured, turning within his embrace. But I have to be significant to myself. Her voice was almost a whisper. For my entire life, I've been a non-entity. But with you was... Today I felt substantial, as if I absorbed power through proximity. Is that a flawed concept? No, he replied. It is a human one. With a raw, desperate intensity, Emma's lips met his, and Adrian answered her fervor in kind. They separated, breathless. Before she spoke again, her tone hushed. Grant me the remainder of the week, every moment. Reveal everything to me. She met his gaze directly. Adrian, I am not a fragile object. I will not shatter. Show me the entirety of your world, and then I will determine if I can withstand it. His eyes bore into hers. Are you certain of that? No, she confessed. But I am walking toward the flames regardless. A genuine, warm smile finally breached his defenses. You're here to completely dismantle my world, aren't you? It's possible. Good, he whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. It could use some disruption. As they dined on the terrace, a new kind of energy ignited between them. Emma, her equilibrium restored, spoke of simple things and profound truths. In turn, Adrian recounted a youth in Queens, his first contract for Vincent Romano, and the precise moment he understood his own capacity for violence. Emma unveiled her own history, a family that defined her by her failings, the dual betrayal of Ryan and Victoria, and the wedding invitation that set this entire narrative in motion. Do you still love him? Adrian inquired, his tone hushed. No, she confessed, her gaze lost in the cityscape. I don't believe I ever did. I was enamored with the concept of being loved by a man like him. I was so starved for validation, I failed to see he wasn't even looking my way. They never truly perceived you, he observed. But I do. I'm aware. She reached for his hand, their fingers weaving together. That is what frightens me more than anything. A tranquil quietness descended upon them as the city lights dissolved into a blur, and an exhaustion that felt rooted in her very bones overtook Emma. At her door, Adrian offered a brief goodnight kiss, and she collapsed into a sleep populated by visions of firearms and currency and the intoxicating sensation of power. Just 4 days remained. 4 days to determine if a life in Adrian Castellano's world was one she could inhabit. But as sleep claimed her, a more profound realization surfaced. The decision had already been made. It was finalized with that initial kiss. With her plea for him to reveal everything, she was submerged too deeply to ever breach the surface. And the most terrifying part, she had no desire to. The following morning, Emma was violently roused by the frantic vibration of her phone. She had silenced it for days, attempting to wall off the world, but had reactivated it from habit the previous night. Now it pulsed with a call from an unknown number. After a moment's pause, acting on impulse, she accepted. Hello, Emma Carter. The voice was female, suffused with professionalism and devoid of warmth. Who is speaking? My name is Detective Sarah Chen, NYPD. I must ask you several questions regarding an incident on a city bus approximately 1 week ago. An icy current shot through Emma's system. She sat bolt upright in bed, her senses instantly sharp. I've already provided a statement. No, Miss Carter, the voice interjected sharply. You have not. You departed the scene prior to our officer's arrival. You are officially listed as a material witness who declined to cooperate with an active investigation. I didn't decline, Emma's words faded. What defense could she offer? That a shadowy figure had warned her away, and she was now residing in his penthouse while he negotiated with felons on her behalf. I need you to come to the precinct today to resolve some matters. I'm not certain that will be possible. That was not a request, Miss Carter. The connection ended. Emma remained seated, the phone feeling like a lead weight in her hand as a profound sense of dread coiled in her stomach. She dressed hurriedly and located Adrian in his office, concluding a call. He raised a finger, finishing in a torrent of furious Italian before turning his attention to her. What has happened? As she recounted the detective's summons, Adrian's face became a mask of stone with each detail. Did you agree to go? No, I was at a complete loss for what to say. He rose, producing his phone and tapping at the display. Detective Sarah Chen, you said? Yes. How did you know yet? Yes. I am managing this. He initiated another call, his voice once more clipped and authoritative in Italian. After disconnecting, he faced Emma again. You will not speak to her. You will not speak to anyone from the NYPD. If they contact you again, you will not answer. Adrian, I can't simply disregard the police. You can, he retorted, when they are on a fishing expedition. Chen is not investigating the bus event. That file was closed 3 days ago and the primary suspect was discovered dead in New Jersey. She is pursuing someone else. Who? Me! Adrienne began to pace toward the window, his entire frame radiating tension. Someone likely informed her that you are staying with me. Now she's attempting to use you as leverage against my operations. A nauseating sensation churned within Emma's stomach. So this is my doing. I am your vulnerability. No, you are the individual they believe they can intimidate. He turned, his gaze softening almost imperceptibly. But they are mistaken. You possess no information that could genuinely harm me, and even if you did, you wouldn't talk. How can you be so certain? Because you remain here, he stated with stark simplicity. Because you elected to see my world instead of fleeing from it. Because you are far more resilient than they could ever imagine. And Emma desperately wanted to believe him. She yearned to feel the unshakable confidence he projected, but instead she felt as if she were drowning. What if they take me into custody? For obstruction? They will not. You can't promise that. Yes, he asserted, his voice permitting no debate. I can. Adrian's phone vibrated, and as he checked the screen, his jaw tightened. I need to resolve this. Remain here. Do not answer your phone. Do not open the door to anyone except Marcus. Where are you headed? To ensure Detective Chen comprehends that you are not to be approached. A spike of raw fear pierced her. What does that imply, Adrian? You can't simply target a police officer. I am not going to harm anyone. I am merely going to engage in a conversation. He kissed her, a swift gesture as he was already moving toward the door. Trust me. And then he was gone, leaving Emma alone with the turmoil in her mind and the sickening certainty that she had just amplified their problems 1,000 times over. She attempted to busy herself with a breakfast she couldn't stomach and a book she couldn't read. Any diversion to halt the spiraling of her thoughts. It was futile. By midday, she was a captive in the opulent apartment, pacing and flinching at every minor noise. At 1 p.m., Marcus arrived with a lunch she was certain she would not touch. He is all right, Marcus said, effortlessly perceiving her anxiety. The boss understands how to manage law enforcement. Does he? This feels like an excellent method for earning a life sentence. Mr. Castellano is not the one who serves time, Marcus replied, his tone flat. The people who defy him are. Emma could only gaze at him. And that is meant to reassure me. It is meant to make you comprehend the man you are with. Marcus placed the food on the table. Look, I understand. You're afraid. This world is frightening. But Adrian is the apex predator in this ecosystem. And this ecosystem is entirely about survival. Align with him, and you survive with him. Unless I cease to be an asset. You are not a liability, he declared, his voice lowering. In 8 years, you are the only person I have witnessed him truly care about. Marcus moved toward the door. That makes you the most valuable and protected asset in this whole city. After his departure, Emma stared down at the city below, countless people engaged in ordinary lives with ordinary difficulties. She could have been among them. She should have been. Instead, she was awaiting a dangerous man's return from intimidating a detective on her behalf. Her phone vibrated once more. It was Detective Chen. Emma declined the call, then blocked the number. 10 minutes passed and it rang again from a different number. She blocked that one as well. The third time, Emma finally yielded, her voice tense. Leave me be. Miss Carter, I would strongly reconsider that stance. Obstructing a federal investigation is a serious offense. I know nothing. I was on a bus, men boarded, seized another man, and I left. That is the extent of my knowledge. And what of your association with Adrian Castellano? Emma's grip on the phone tightened until her knuckles were pale. I have no association with Adrienne Castellano. Is that so? My intelligence indicates you have been residing at his private penthouse for the past week. Quite a narrative, correct? A nursing assistant struggling with rent suddenly cohabitating with one of New York's most notorious figures. I have no idea what you're referencing. Oh, I believe you do, Chen countered. And when you decide to be truthful, you will discover I can be an exceptionally valuable ally. Witness protection, a new identity, a complete restart, far removed from all of this. The detective's voice fell to a conspiratorial tone. Consider it, Emma. Is he truly worth taking this kind of fall for? The line went silent. Emma stood motionless, Chen's proposal reverberating in her mind. A fresh start, a different life, an escape. The offer was a visceral blow. Yet, as she envisioned it, leaving, reverting to her former existence, the only thing she felt was a vast, hollow emptiness. Adrienne perceived the truth within her. She no longer craved the security of a conventional life. She craved significance. She craved the raw, vibrant feeling of being alive, even if it culminated in her own destruction. He returned 2 hours later, appearing exhausted, but with the grim satisfaction of a victor in his eyes. Emma confronted him the instant he entered. What did you do? We had a discussion, Adrienne stated. He sighed, loosening his tie. I merely brought to Detective Chen's attention the internal affairs review of her work over the last 6 months. Allegations concerning the mishandling of evidence. I simply pointed out how detrimental it would be if that inquiry were to uncover new, definitive proof. Emma's jaw went slack. You intimidated a police officer? I advised her to concentrate on cases with tangible evidence, rather than pursuing intuitions that would incinerate her career. That is blackmail. That is leverage. Adrienne poured himself a drink and consumed it in a single motion. She will not trouble you again. You cannot be absolutely certain of that, Emma whispered. He turned to her, his gaze unwavering. For 15 years, this has been my domain. I manage police, I manage criminals, and I manage the ambiguous space between them. Chen will retreat because she is intelligent enough to recognize when she has been thoroughly outmaneuvered. Emma wanted to shout at him, to declare that this was madness, that it would all implode. But her only words were, "She called me again while you were gone." The narrative presents an external temptation, a chance for a clean slate if Emma betrays Adrienne. Her response is framed as an immediate declaration of loyalty, a verbal shield against the offer. We see the tension momentarily drain from Adrienne's form as he draws her into an embrace, finding in her a temporary anchor against the storm. The countdown of 3 more days hangs in the air, a structural device amplifying the stakes as they stand together, borrowing strength from one another in a shared, precarious silence. The scene then pivots from quiet intimacy to strategic preparation. The directive to get changed signals a transition, dressing Emma for a role in a world that is not her own. The choice of a Tribeca restaurant is symbolic, an opulent stage where power is displayed not through loudness, but through exclusivity and unpriced menus. Emma's inquiries about their destination are met with deliberate vagueness, casting the meeting as a crucial, mysterious rite of passage in her journey into his circle. They are met by Sophia Marinette, a figure who embodies the quiet authority of a matriarch. Her silver hair and sharp eyes suggest a woman who sees everything. After a warm, familial greeting with Adrienne, her focus shifts to Emma, her gaze a swift and thorough appraisal. Sophia reveals that Emma has become a frequent topic for Adrienne. a welcome disruption in his work-obsessed life. With a single witty remark, Emma earns Sophia's quiet laughter, passing a critical, unspoken test of character. Sophia's immediate approval, "I like her," serves as a formal endorsement. The meal that follows is less a dinner and more a subtle interrogation, a careful probing of Emma's past and her motivations. Emma offers a version of the truth, withholding the more violent details. Sophia, with piercing insight, identifies the core of Emma's internal struggle, astutely noting that entry into their world is not a simple choice, but a profound commitment that Emma is still wrestling with. Adrienne's unease is palpable, but Emma meets Sophia's challenge directly. Her candid assessment of Adrienne, dangerous, complicated, yet compelling enough to stay for, is an act of profound honesty. In this world of deceit, such truth is a rare currency, earning a genuine smile from Sophia. The tension breaks and the dinner shifts to storytelling, with Sophia recounting tales of Adrienne's youth that serve to both humanize him and build his legend in Emma's eyes. Sophia shares a foundational myth of Adrienne's past. At 22, he confronted the Bratva alone. This story showcases the blend of audacity and fortune that defines him. He may have emerged with 2 broken ribs, but he secured his objective. For Emma, this is a stark illustration of the brutal realities of his life and the sheer force of will required to navigate it. Sophia expertly reframes his self-assessment of reckless into bold, suggesting the 2 traits are sides of the same valuable coin. In parting, Sophia offers herself as an ally to Emma, a powerful promise from a woman of her stature. In the car, Adrienne unveils Sophia's true identity. She is the master of the East Coast's most powerful information network and the closest thing he has to family. Her approval, he explains, is more than a social courtesy. It is a political endorsement, a protective mantle in their dangerous world. Sophia's blessing means something profound. Adrienne clarifies the strategy. Sophia's public acceptance ensures that their enemies will hesitate before targeting Emma. This meeting was a calculated move to position her securely within his world, a layer of protection independent of his own presence. His motive is to guarantee her safety no matter what she decides in 3 days. He frames this protection as an absolute, a non-negotiable responsibility, underscoring the depth of his commitment as they drive into a contemplative silence. Adrienne became perfectly motionless. "Emma!" But she pressed on. "Listen, I am requesting nothing more than your time. I simply cannot bear to be alone tonight." He studied her with an unnerving intensity for a long moment before offering a slow, deliberate nod. "Very well." They settled on the bed, fully dressed, her head resting on his chest as his arm secured her. The steady rhythm of his heart was the sole anchor against her spiraling thoughts. "Tell me something true," she whispered into the darkness. "About what?" "About you, something no one else is permitted to hear." The silence stretched for so long she thought he would refuse. Then his voice emerged, low and resonant. "You terrify me." She pushed herself up to see his face. "I beg your pardon." "Everything I have constructed, every barrier, every line of defense. You moved through them as if they were smoke, and I possess no strategy for that." His hand rose, gently sweeping a strand of hair from her cheek. "You make me desire things I abandoned long ago, conventional things, a life that is more than mere respiration." "That is not terrifying. That is simply being alive." "In my world," he countered, "being truly alive is an effective way to get killed." Emma settled back against him. "Well, perhaps it is time for a new world." "Perhaps." They drifted into sleep in that tangled state. When Emma's eyes opened to the morning light, Adrian was still there, holding her, their breathing in perfect synchrony. She considered Detective Chen's proposition: a clean record, a new beginning, absolute security. Then she considered her present reality: Adrian's arms enveloping her, his heart beating beneath her ear, the possibility of becoming the one individual who truly mattered to someone. The juxtaposition was stark, yet the choice was preordained. The following 2 days were a whirlwind of introductions and strategic meetings, each conversation revealing another facet of Adriana's dominion. Emma met his chief lieutenants, observed his operations, and began to grasp the immense scope of his influence. This reality should have instilled a profound fear in her. Instead, she found herself captivated. The way Adrian commanded loyalty effortlessly, the cold precision with which he resolved conflicts, the way his people regarded him. It was a complex alchemy of respect and fear, with an element of reverence mixed in, and he kept her at his side through it all. He concealed nothing. He made no attempt to soften the brutal truths of his world. On the 6th night, her final opportunity to choose, Adrian returned her to the club. They were on the dance floor as before, but now the air was thick with an unspoken understanding that their shared reality was on the verge of a tectonic shift. "Tomorrow," Adrian murmured into her hair. "Tomorrow you render your decision." "I know. I will not be angered if you depart. I will honor my vow. I will ensure your safety. Find you a new place. I will release you." Emma pulled away, her gaze locking with his. "Is that your desire?" "I desire for you to be happy, safe, and free." "That is not what I asked." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I want you to remain. I want you to choose this life, to choose me, the chaos, the peril, all of it. But I'm also not foolish enough to believe that is not a selfish desire. Perhaps I wish to be selfish as well." "Emma." She silenced him with a kiss. When finally parted, their breathing labored, she said, "I have one final question, and I require an honest answer. Anything. This marker you owe Dmitry Volkov. What if his price puts me at risk? What if you cannot protect me and settle your debt simultaneously?" Adrian's expression hardened into granite. "Then I will set the entire Volkov organization on fire and contend with the consequences. You would incite a war for me, with absolute stillness." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic prisoner. "That is fundamentally irrational, I am aware. You have no knowledge of me. I know what is essential." His hands framed her face, his gaze a palpable force. "I know your strength, your intelligence, and a courage you have yet to claim. I know you perceive the man beneath the myth, not the power, not the wealth. And I know that losing you would create a void I am certain I could not endure. Adrian, I love you." The confession escaped her, raw and unshielded. "I realize this is accelerated to the point of madness, and you may not be in the same space, but it is the truth. Your decision tomorrow alters nothing." The atmosphere in the room seemed to vanish, her cognitive functions ceasing. The bass vibrated around them, the crowd a smear of motion, and while the world continued its spin, hers had ground to a definitive halt. "Respond," Adrian urged, his tone low. "I don't know what to articulate. The truth. It is the only thing I have ever required of you." Emma drew a ragged breath, the admission trembling on her lips. "I believe I am in love with you, and that concept is exponentially more terrifying than any of this." He drew her close, a grip that belied a fear of her vanishing. They moved with the music, no longer a dance, but an act of holding on. Back in the penthouse's silence, she bypassed her own door, following him to his. As he turned, his eyes posed the question, and her answer was a kiss that offered her entire being. Their union was deliberate, almost reverent, as if handling a fragile artifact they were both terrified of shattering. Later, with city lights painting specters on the ceiling, Emma understood her necessary course of action. "I am staying," she breathed into the darkness. Adrienne's form went rigid beside her. "Are you certain?" "No, but it is the choice I am making." She turned, her gaze finding his in gloom. "I am done with calculated safety. I want this. I want you. I want to cease being a peripheral figure and become someone tangible. You are real to me. That is the only thing that matters." Emma's lips brushed his. "Whatever is coming, we face it as one." He pulled her closer, a wave of profound relief emanating from him. They slept in a tangle of limbs, and she dreamed of burning empires and of a man who could perceive her when no one else could. When she awoke, he was already conscious, simply observing her. "Morning," she murmured. "Good morning." He brushed a single strand of hair from her face. "Any second thoughts?" "Ask me again in a year." The barest hint of a smile touched his lips. "A deal." Her phone began to vibrate on the nightstand, a profane interruption. She seized it. An unrecognized number glowed on the display. On a foolish impulse, she answered. "Hello, Emma. It is your mother." A knot of ice materialized in Emma's stomach. "How did you acquire this number?" "That is irrelevant. What is relevant is your sister's wedding in 3 days, for which you have failed to RSVP. I am not attending." A frigid silence stretched across the line. "I beg your pardon?" "I will not be at the wedding. Apologize to Victoria, but I am unable to be there." "Emma Christine Carter, you will be present. I will not tolerate this juvenile behavior." "This is not a family. It is a performance by you and Victoria, while I am expected to witness the man I loved marry my own sister. I am done with the pretense. I am done diminishing myself to aggrandize you." From where has this sudden defiance emerged? Perhaps it is long overdue. Emma sat up, feeling Adrian's hand settle on her back, a warm, grounding pressure. "I'm not coming, and I offer no apology. If you wish to be angry, so be it. But this is my life now, and I intend to live it." She ended the call, severing her mother's impending response. "That was bold," Adrian observed quietly. "That was necessary." Emma met his gaze directly. "No more apologizing for existing. No more being invisible. As of this moment, I am here. You were always here. I understand that now." Adrian's kiss was slow, freighted with the weight of a final decision. Emma felt a tectonic shift within her, as the last remnants of her former life disintegrated and her new self clicked into place. She was finished with mere survival, with being overlooked. Emma Carter had chosen the hurricane, had run toward the maelstrom, and selected a path that could end in absolute ruin. But it would be a ruin she commanded. For the first time in 32 years, she felt utterly, terrifyingly alive. 2 days after incinerating that bridge, Adrian's phone rang at 4 a.m. She felt him transform instantly, his tone shifting from sleep-softened to razor-edged. A pause. "How many?" Another heavier silence. "I'm on my way?" He was already moving, dressing in the shadows as Emma sat up. "What is happening?" "The Volkovs. They struck a warehouse. 3 of my men are lost, along with $500,000 in product. Adriana's expression was a mask in the darkness. Dmitri is calling in his marker. A cold apprehension crept up Emma's spine. What does he require? He wants me to look away as he seizes new territory, which means I must sanction his removal of 2 of my own men who are in his path. Adrian retrieved a handgun Emma had not known existed. I have to manage this. You said you would burn his world down if he targeted me. This is not about you. It is a strategic maneuver. He is testing my tolerance for pressure before I break. Adrian paused at the door. Remain here. Marcus is outside. You will not leave. Adrian, wait. But the man she knew had vanished, and the figure in the reflection of the elevator doors was one of cold fury. Emma was left alone in the encroaching dawn, her thoughts in chaos. So this was the reality. His world was colliding with hers with the force of a locomotive. People were dead. More were likely to follow. And the entire crisis pivoted on a debt to a sociopath who treated violence like a market commodity. She paced the suite, watching the sky bleed from black to a sickly violet. Her phone remained silent, no contact. They had formally excised her. Fine. Let them. At approximately 8 a.m., Marcus appeared with a breakfast she couldn't touch and information that twisted her insides into a knot. The Don has a meeting with the Volkovs in 2 hours to discuss terms. What sort of terms? Marcus's expression was pure, stoic professionalism. The kind where a participant leaves in a containment bag if things go wrong. I need to see him. His instructions were for you to remain here. I do not care about his instructions. Take me to him. Marcus regarded her for a long, silent moment. Are you certain? Witnessing the man he must become before a conflict is not a pleasant sight. I am certain. The warehouse possessed a different aura by day, colder, the latent violence in the air now a palpable thing. Marcus guided her past men scrubbing blood from the concrete, their faces like granite. They afforded her not a single glance as she passed. Adrian was in his office, speaking Russian with a fiery intensity. His eyes met hers, and his face registered a sequence of emotions. Shock, then concern, then a weary acceptance. He terminated the call. You should not be here. I know, and yet I am. Adrian dismissed Marcus, waiting for the door to seal them in. Emma. She closed the distance between them, her hands finding his. Do not tell me to stay home. If I am a part of your life, I am part of all of it. This is about to become chaotic. I never assumed it would be clean. He pulled her into a fierce embrace. Dmitri will demand I sanction the execution of 2 of my most loyal men. If I comply, I am a subordinate who yields. If I refuse, it is war. So what is the strategy? I have not yet determined it. Adrian leaned back, his gaze intense. A part of me wants to incinerate everything, to tell Dmitri to go to hell. But that action places a target on you, and on every man loyal to me. The strategic move is to find a compromise. And if one cannot be found, then men will die. His jaw tightened. Perhaps myself included. Emma's fingers clenched his shirt. Do not say that. It is the nature of this existence. Dmitri has sought a pretext to move against me for years. This could be it. Then do not go. Send Marcus. Send anyone else. My absence signals weakness, and in this life, weakness is a death sentence. Adrian touched his lips to her forehead. I am going. But first you will give me your word on something. Anything. If this goes poorly, if I fail to return, you will get into a vehicle with Marcus and you will vanish. Sophia has the destination. No heroics, no hesitation. You will run. Promise me, Emma. She wanted to rage, to vow she would fight at his side, but the unvarnished fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her, strangled the words. I promise. The meeting was in a skeletal restaurant, a boneyard of vacant tables and chairs. Emma observed from Marcus's SUV, positioned half a block away with binoculars to her eyes, in direct defiance of Adrian's command. He is going to kill me for this, Marcus muttered. Then we shall be killed together. She could see them through the large front window, Adrian and two of his men on one side, Dmitry Volkov and his contingent on the other. From this distance, the meeting had an air of civility. Then one of Dmitry's men shot to his feet. Adrian did not move, but his entire form radiated a new tension she could feel through the glass. The equilibrium has shifted, Marcus observed, his hand already reaching for his phone. Before the weight of his words could settle, the restaurant's rear entrance burst open. 4 armed men stormed the room, and the fragile truce fractured into open warfare. Adrian propelled the heavy table for cover as his team returned fire. Windows imploded. Men fell. A scream lodged in Emma's throat as she witnessed Adrian move, a fluid, terrifyingly efficient predator. He neutralized one threat, then a second, each movement a study in deadly precision. But the tactical math was grim. She could see they were being methodically overwhelmed. We have to act, she implored. Miss Carter, my protocol. Marcus stopped, his face a mask of resolve. He made a different call. He called for reinforcements, drawing his sidearm in the same smooth action. Stay in the vehicle. Secure the locks. If it is not me or the boss, you drive. Is that clear? Emma gave a sharp nod, sliding behind the wheel as Marcus sprinted into the chaos. Through the armored glass, she saw the battle's tide turn as Adrian's people arrived, the conflict shifting around fallen figures and scarred walls. A scene of brutal cinematic violence was unfolding live. Then, exiting a car just 2 spaces down, was Ryan Blake. A deep chill settled in Emma's core. His presence here was an impossibility. She could only watch, paralyzed, as Ryan calmly placed a call and walked not away from the violence but toward it, as if returning to his natural habitat. In that singular moment, the devastating truth crashed down on Emma. Ryan was no innocent bystander, no simple, wealthy fiancé for Victoria. He was an integral part of this dark world. He had been all along. The realization struck her with the force of a physical blow. 3 years. For 3 entire years, her heart had been his, while he performed in a shadow theater she never knew was staged. A new, harder resolve solidified within her. The car door opened. She stepped on the asphalt. Ryan, she called out. He spun, his composure crumbling into ash when he saw her. Emma, what in God's name are you doing here? I could ask you the same, but I suspect I have my answer. She advanced toward him, her hands unsteady, but her voice resolute. You are in business with the Vulovs. That is why you left me for Victoria. There is a deal between the Blake family and the Vulovs. Ryan's jaw tightened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? She countered. Your father develops commercial properties, correct? Large-scale projects all over the city. Allow me to assemble the pieces. The Vulovs launder their capital through his construction, and in return, your family gains their protection and a share of the proceeds. Emma, you need to go. Immediately. Or what? Will you have me silenced like those men inside? She gestured toward the restaurant's bloody interior. Was that the issue? I wasn't a suitable asset for your syndicate, not a valuable enough piece on the board? Ryan grabbed her arm, his grip bruising. You foolish woman, do you comprehend the danger you are in? Adrian Castellano is already a ghost. Dmitri is going to erase him. He will dismantle his entire operation, and everyone associated with him will be eliminated as well. Emma wrenched her arm free. Then I suppose I will be eliminated too. You don't have to be. Just come with me. I can conceal you. Tell Dmitri you were merely an ignorant pawn. And what happens then? We just continue where we left off. A bitter laugh escaped her. I would rather die. That can be arranged, a new voice said from behind her. Emma turned to see one of Dmitri's enforcers, a pistol aimed at her chest. Time seemed to dilate. She saw the man's finger tighten, saw Ryan take an instinctive step back, creating distance. Her life was about to be extinguished in a parking lot, feet from where Adrian was fighting for his. Then Marcus was there, a blur of motion colliding with the gunman, sending the shot wide. As they grappled on the pavement, Emma stumbled backward. Run! Marcus yelled, but her gaze was locked on the restaurant, where Adrian had just appeared in the doorway. Their eyes met across the chaotic lot, and she saw pure rage contort his features as he understood her peril. He surged toward her, only for Dmitri himself to intercept him. This is not over, Castellano. Adrian didn't grant him a glance. He raised his pistol and fired, not at Dmitri, but at the man struggling with Marcus. The shot was clean, final. The man collapsed. As Marcus got to his feet, Dmitri chuckled. So there it is. That is your weakness, a woman. He produced his own weapon, aiming it at Emma. Drop your firearm or she's gone. Adrian's face became a cold, unreadable mask. But Emma could see the impossible calculation spinning behind his eyes, the terrible choice he now faced. Let her go, Adrian commanded. This is between you and me. No, this is precisely the point. You believe you can operate in my city, usurp my business, and suffer no consequences. Dmitri's finger tightened on the trigger. She dies first. Then you die. Emma's mind raced. She could flee, seek cover. She could create a diversion for Adrian's shot. Or she could remain perfectly still, praying Adrian was faster. But she executed a move none of them foresaw. She walked directly toward Dmitri. Emma, don't. Adrian's voice was sharp, laced with terror. You want collateral? Emma asked Dmitri, her stride unwavering. I am right here. Let Adrian leave, and I am yours. My life for his. Emma, stop this! Adrian lunged, but two of Dmitri's men intercepted him. She stopped 3 feet from the weapon's barrel. I am serious. Let him go. You gain me a guarantee he will not return for vengeance. Is that not worth more than 2 bodies? Dmitri watched her, a spark of genuine interest in his eyes. You love him that much? You would die for him. Without a second's thought. Fascinating. Dmitri lowered his weapon slightly. Adrian Castellano, the man without emotion brought down by a nurse's aid. There is a certain poetry in that. There is only foolishness in it, Ryan interjected, finally regaining his voice. She is nothing. Kill her and be done with this. Emma's gaze snapped to Ryan. Still such a romantic, Dmitri smirked. I like her. She has spirit. He turned to Adrian. I will give you a choice, Castellano, your life or hers. You walk away from this city, from your entire operation, and she lives. or you stand your ground and she dies here and now. Don't, Emma pleaded. Don't you dare accept that. But Adrian was already lowering his gun. You have my word. I will disappear. You will not touch her. No, Emma cried, moving toward him, but Dmitri caught her arm. A wise choice, Dmitri smiled. You have 24 hours to be gone. If I see your face after that, this agreement is void. Adrian locked eyes with Emma for one last, soul-searing second. She saw everything in his gaze: regret, love, and a hopelessness that fractured her to her core. Then Marcus was pulling Adrian away, the two retreating to their car, leaving Emma to Dmitri, Ryan, and the complete demolition of her life. Let me go, Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. Not a chance. We have to confirm your protector actually leaves. Dmitri nodded to his man. Take her to the safe house. Keep her there until we have confirmation Castellano is out of the city. Emma was dragged into a car, shoved into the back. As it sped off, she watched Adrian's vehicle disappear around a distant corner. She had just purchased his life, only to lose him in the same instant. The safe house was a desolate apartment in Queens, windowless and furnished with palpable misery. Emma sat on the bed's edge, already formulating a counter-strategy. Adrian was gone, likely en route to an airfield, with Marcus compelling him onto a plane, while every fiber of his being screamed to return for her. Dmitri had won. Ryan had witnessed her absolute ruin, and Emma was once more entirely alone. But this time was different. There was no collapse, no tears. Instead, there was a pure, cold rage, a controlled fire. She had burned her safety, her future, and her entire life to the ground as a sacrifice for Adrian, and he had simply walked away. He had made a pact with the man who would likely dispose of her the moment Adrian was no longer a threat. 2 hours crawled by, then 4. Emma memorized the room, searching for any weakness, any exit. The door was solid steel. The guard outside was armed and alert. They had confiscated her phone. She had nothing but the clothes she wore and her white-hot fury. Near midnight, shouting erupted outside, followed by the sound of gunfire. The guard at her door fired once, then fell silent. The door slammed open. Emma braced for what was next. It was Sophia Marinette, backed by 4 armed men, appearing impossibly serene amid the chaos. Hello, dear. Ready to leave? Emma's jaw was slack. How did you? Adrian called me before his flight. He asked me to ensure your well-being. Sophia offered a hand. Come, we have much to accomplish. Inside Sophia's sedan, Emma finally spoke. So, he is truly gone. His plane left for Prague 3 hours ago, Sophia confirmed, giving her a meaningful look. He saved your life. He abandoned me. He did what was necessary to keep you alive. Sophia's voice was gentle. That is what love is, Emma. Not a grand gesture. It is sacrifice. Emma watched the city lights blur past. Where are we going? To end this. A sharp, formidable edge entered Sophia's smile. Dmitri Vulov made a grave miscalculation. He had perceived Adrian as the last significant piece on the board, entirely overlooking my presence. Your role, he dangerously misjudged. What do you mean? You shielded Adrian from certain death today. You advanced toward a primed weapon without a trace of fear. That caliber of courage commands attention. Sophia navigated to a landmark she knew well, Adrian's Central Command. The pivotal question is, how will you leverage this new standing? Within, Sophia arrayed a multitude of documents on the conference table, ledgers, titles, and corporate facades. For 3 years, the Vulovs have been cleansing their illicit funds through the Blake family's real estate ventures, Sophia articulated. I have meticulously traced every transaction, constructing a formidable case. The sole missing element was undeniable evidence linking the two houses. Ryan? Emma exhaled. Precisely. Your former fiancé stands as the linchpin of this entire operation. He has been orchestrating the transfers, methodically erasing the documentary evidence. It was a masterful, if morally bankrupt, performance. Sophia met her gaze directly, but it was not flawless. With this archive, we can dismantle both the Vulov and Blake dynasties. The FBI has coveted such proof for many years. Emma's mind was reeling. You intend to deliver this to the federal authorities? No. I intend to grant you the decision. You can present this to the FBI. Assume the role of the righteous victor. Witness Ryan, his father, and Dmitri face incarceration. Alternatively, you can vanish, forge a new identity, and sever all ties to this world. And what of Adrian? The inquiry lingered in the air. He was in Prague, rebuilding from nothing. She could seek refuge with him. Or she could remain here and bring this entire saga to a definitive close. Emma's focus fell upon the papers, a veritable arsenal designed to annihilate those who had wronged her. Ryan, who had cast her aside, her own family, who had bartered her suffering for her sister's contentment, the Vulovs, who had marked her for death. She contemplated the woman she had been just 3 weeks prior, a hollow specter, utterly shattered, clinging to existence. That woman would have fled. But Emma was no longer that woman. I will see it to its conclusion, she declared. Every last part. A deliberate smile formed on Sophia's lips. I was counting on that. The subsequent 72 hours were an absolute tempest. Emma conferred with federal agents, surrendering Sophia's evidence and divulging all she knew. They escorted Ryan from his office in restraints as his colleagues watched in disbelief. They apprehended his father shortly thereafter. Dmitry Volkov was intercepted at the airport, attempting to flee the country. The resulting media frenzy was extraordinary. Emma disregarded the majority of it, yet she saw fragments of Ryan's face on the news, a complete stranger from the man who had once promised her everything. She witnessed Victoria's tearful press conference, feigning total ignorance. Her mother attempted one phone call. Emma simply allowed it to ring. A week following the arrests, Emma stood before the darkened venue where Victoria's wedding was to have taken place. The ceremony was, of course, canceled. Rumor held that Victoria had fled to California, disgraced and shattered. Emma waited for a feeling to surface: triumph, justice, any emotional response. But all she experienced was a profound, debilitating exhaustion. You succeeded. She turned. Marcus was there, positioned a few feet away. I believed you were in Prague with Adrian. I was. He sent me to ensure your well-being. Marcus drew slightly nearer. He wishes to see you, should you feel prepared. Emma's heart ceased to beat. He is here? He returned 2 days ago, awaiting the conclusion of these events. Where? The penthouse. Naturally. The ascent in the elevator felt as though it spanned an eternity. Emma's hands trembled, her breathing shallow. What could she possibly articulate? How does one even begin a conversation with the man who relinquished his entire empire for you, only to permit you to do the same? The doors parted, revealing the apartment. Adrian was positioned by the windows, a silhouette against the urban glow. As he turned to face her, the look in his eyes nearly shattered her resolve. Emma! She strode directly to him and struck him firmly in the chest. You abandoned me. There was no alternative. You struck a bargain with Dimitri. You intended to let him take me after your departure. Sophia was already initiating her plan. I was certain she would extract you from that situation. Emma struck him once more. You were certain of nothing. You gambled with my very existence. Yes. Adrian secured her wrist, his touch far gentler than she had anticipated. Because had I remained here to engage in that fight, we both would have perished. This strategy ensured at least one of us would survive. I do not wish for mere survival without you, Emma's voice fractured. I want a life with you. A genuine one, not simply enduring, but truly living. Adrian drew her into his embrace, holding her as if she might dematerialize. I love you. I should have declared it with greater conviction. Far more frequently, I should have made you unequivocally certain. I am certain. Emma clutched his shirt. I know, because you were prepared to sacrifice it all. Your kingdom, this city, your entire existence. For me, I would do it again. You will not have to. The Volkoffs are finished, as are the Blakes. It is concluded. Adrian pulled back, his gaze probing hers. So what comes next? What is it that you desire, Emma? She truly considered it, allowing the question to permeate her thoughts. Her former life was obliterated, reduced to cinders by her own actions. Her family had cast her out. Her previous career was a distant echo. The identity she had held for 32 years was utterly erased. And yet within Adrian's arms, she felt no sense of being lost. She felt entirely grounded in the present. I want this, she replied, this connection between us and whatever we decide to construct from it. It will not be straightforward. I am not seeking simplicity. It could be perilous. I am anticipating that it will be. Adrian smiled, the first truly genuine expression she had ever witnessed on his face. In that case, I have something for you. He retrieved a small box from his pocket. It was not for a ring, but for something else. He opened it, revealing a single key. This is for the apartment, he stated. Officially, not as a refuge from peril, but as a home, because this is where you belong. He paused for a moment. If that is what you desire. Emma accepted the key, its cool weight feeling like a covenant, as if she finally possessed agency. Ask me the other question, she urged. What other question? You are aware of the one. I can see the box in your pocket. A short, startled laugh escaped him. How did you just ask? He produced the second box and opened it. Inside lay a simple platinum band with the solitary diamond. It was not ostentatious or an extravagant display of wealth. It was simply beautiful. Emma Carter, will you marry me? Will you construct this chaotic, dangerous, and likely ill-fated life with me? Will you permit me to prove to you each and every day that you are seen? Yes. There was no indecision, not even a trace of uncertainty. Yes, to every part of it. As he guided the ring onto her finger, Emma felt the last component of her being settle into its proper place. This was correct. This was authentic. They were married 3 months later at the club of their first dance, in a small, intimate ceremony. Sophia attended. Marcus was present, along with a few other individuals Adrian trusted. Emma's family received no invitation. She was entirely at peace with that choice. As they danced to the music from that initial evening, Emma reflected on the person she once was, the woman devastated by a wedding invitation, who felt her world collapsing, the woman who was unseen, a ghost. That individual was gone, supplanted by someone who had traversed hell and emerged on the other side like tempered steel. So what is the grand design now? Adrian murmured into her hair, and she responds, I am happy. Truly, genuinely happy. He simply says, good. That was the entire objective. He queries, you are happy? With me? Emma pulls away, meeting his gaze. And what of your entire criminal enterprise? Are you reconstructing that entity? He smirked. It has already commenced, but we are operating under a new set of principles. Predominantly legitimate enterprises. I am growing too old for this unending conflict. You are 43, my friend. I am exhausted. He grinned. Furthermore, I now possess a reason to remain alive. That fundamentally alters the entire game. So, what is the strategy? We attempt to be normal? And his conception of normal? Adrian spun her, the room becoming a soft blur. We manage clean corporations, assist people with specific problems, reside in a vast apartment, and argue over who left the coffee maker on. Perhaps we even acquire a dog. Is that genuinely your conception of a normal existence? Because it is perfect. This was not the future Emma had foreseen when that maddening invitation arrived 4 months ago. It was not the secure, predictable life she believed she had wanted. But this was the life she had chosen, the one she had fought for and directed from the absolute devastation of her past. 6 months post-wedding, Emma is on the penthouse terrace. This is unequivocally her home now, gazing over the city. Down there, that fool Ryan Blake is serving a 15-year sentence for fraud. His father received 20. And Dmitry Volkov? He is incarcerated for life. Victoria escaped to Los Angeles, altered her name, and is reportedly planning to marry. Her mother still calls, but Emma rarely answers. She has returned to work, but not to her former position. Sophia facilitated her entry into nursing school, a legitimate program this time. It seems Emma is a natural when she is not balancing 3 jobs merely to subsist. Adrian established a foundation in Sophia's name, aiding at-risk youth in Queens. Emma assists in its management, discovering a renewed sense of purpose. Yet their life is not some idealized cinematic ending. They have conflicts, typically over Adrian's lingering affinity for the thrill of the game or Emma's intense dedication to her studies. Both carry emotional burdens that love alone cannot magically resolve, but their connection is unshakable. They truly comprehend one another. And every single morning, Emma awakens beside the man who rescued her simply by acknowledging her existence when she was utterly invisible to the rest of the world. There you are. Adrian emerges onto the terrace holding 2 glasses of wine. What are you doing out here in the cold? Just contemplating about the bus, about the alternate reality that would exist if you had not stopped for me that night. Adrian offers her a glass, his arm encircling her. I could never have simply passed by. You were a person who deserved to be seen, and I was a man who required a reason to be a hero. We were, in essence, each other's salvation. Yes, she affirms with a nod. We were. They stand in a tranquil, chilled silence, observing the pulsating lights of the city. Emma considers the invitation that shattered her world, the sister who betrayed her, and the single night that inverted her entire narrative. And she understood she would not alter a single element, because the person she once was, diminished, overlooked, a ghost in her own existence, that version of her could never occupy this space. She would never have fought for her own life, never have demanded her own significance. Emma Carter incinerated her former self, and from those ashes she constructed something far more substantial. something perilous and complex and entirely 100% her own. She chose the hurricane over the calm, a volatile love over quiet comfort, and chose to be a force rather than a footnote. And for the first time in her life, she was not merely surviving. She was in command.
The invitation waited beneath the yellow kitchen light like a sentence already passed. Emma Carter stood barefoot on cold tile, still wearing the fatigue of the hospital on her body as though it had seeped into the fabric of her skin. Outside, rain slid down the window in silver threads. Inside, everything was still except her hands. They trembled above embossed gold lettering that announced her sister's happiness with the precision of a knife. Victoria Ann Carter, Ryan Christopher Blake. There are betrayals that arrive like explosions, and there are betrayals that arrive dressed as formal correspondence. Emma did not cry at first. She stood there in the cramped apartment in the hush of a life too small for her grief and looked as though she had been emptied quietly. The camera would have lingered on the details, the chipped mug near the sink, the hum of the old refrigerator, the heels of her worn shoes collapsing inward by the door. Evidence of a woman who had spent years holding herself together with habits instead of hope. By day, she moved through hospital corridors under fluorescent light, carrying linen and silence in equal measure. She touched the lives of strangers more gently than anyone had touched hers. She helped the frightened, the weak, the recovering. Yet when her own heart fractured, there was no one waiting with clean hands and a calm voice to help her breathe through the pain. Only expectation. Her mother called. Her sister insisted. The wedding dress had already been ordered. The role had already been assigned. Emma was to stand at the altar not as witness to joy, but as proof of endurance. She was expected to arrive smiling, polished, and reduced. Then came the rain-soaked night. The city was all reflections and sirens, wet pavement and sleepless windows. Emma boarded the bus with a plastic bag of groceries cutting into her fingers, never knowing that in the next few minutes her life would split open like a stage curtain. Two men entered. Their presence altered the air before they spoke. One hand near a weapon, one voice too calm, one order, and the fragile ordinariness of the bus dissolved. Emma sat frozen beneath dim overhead lights while fear moved slowly down the aisle wearing leather shoes and murder in its silence. They took a man from the back row. The doors shut. The city kept moving. When Emma finally stumbled into the street, rain struck her face with the cruelty of awakening. She walked as if pursued by something larger than footsteps. Home was only a few blocks away, yet every shadow seemed to know her name. And then the car appeared. A dark vehicle at the curb, a window lowering, a face half in shadow, half in streetlight. Adrian Castellano looked like the sort of man directors say for the moment the story changes genre. Older than romance, sharper than comfort, dressed in power with the ease of long practice. He did not ask for her trust, he offered her a warning. The scene would be quiet, no swelling soundtrack yet. Only rain, only the soft idling of the engine, only his gaze fixed on her with the strange intensity of someone who had recognized a fracture because he carried one himself. Later, in his penthouse high above Manhattan, Emma would stand at windows taller than her old dreams and listen to him tell her the truth. Witnesses disappear, loose ends are buried. Men like the ones on the bus do not believe in mercy. The room would glow with low amber light, crystal glasses, marble counters, the city below like an accusation. And still, what would move her most would not be the danger, it would be his final confession spoken with almost unbearable simplicity. I saw you. For a woman who had been overlooked by family, discarded by love, and erased by duty, those words were not comfort. They were resurrection. But resurrection in this world had a cost. Emma entered Adrian's life the way a spark enters dry timber. Not loudly, inevitably. She followed him into rooms where men measured worth through obedience and blood. Warehouses, clubs, back-channel meetings spoken in codes and half-truths. She watched him become colder in business, harder in danger, more remote in command. Yet even then, there were moments the camera would catch. His hand at the small of her back, the pause before he answered her hardest questions, the softness that visited his face only when she looked directly at him. Their love did not bloom in innocence. It bloomed in proximity to ruin. And then the war came. Not metaphorical war, real war, shattered glass, gunfire, bodies striking concrete, smoke in the air and desperation in the eyes of men too proud to kneel. Emma would witness Adrian not as protector alone, but as something forged for destruction, efficient, terrible, precise. And in the cruelest turn of all, Ryan would emerge from that same underworld not as the lost lover of her past, but as proof that deception had surrounded her from the beginning. He had not left because he was confused. He had left because she could not be converted into advantage. In the parking lot, under a sky the color of gunmetal, Emma would finally understand that the men who wounded her never misunderstood her value. They simply valued other things more. So when Dimitri raised the gun and the choice became unbearable, Emma stepped forward. This matters. Not backward, not away, forward. She offered herself in exchange for Adrian's life, and in that moment the woman who had once wept silently in the bathroom while her family drank wine became someone else entirely, not untouched by fear, not purified by love, but transformed by decision. And when Adrian walked away to save her, when sacrifice tore them apart before it brought them back together, the story reached its most tragic truth. Real love is not always the act of staying. Sometimes it is the act of leaving while your whole soul begs to remain. By the end, the ring, the key, the marriage, the rebuilt life, all of it feels earned, not because the world grew kinder, but because Emma stopped surrendering authorship over her own existence. She crossed through betrayal, through violence, through grief, and emerged not unscarred but visible. The final shot would not be the wedding. It would be Emma at the terrace, wind moving through her hair, city lights beneath her like constellations brought to earth. Adrian beside her, the night wide open, no longer a woman waiting to be chosen, but one who had stepped through fire and learned the terrible beauty of becoming. Life lesson. Some lives do not change when love arrives. They change when pain finally teaches a person to stop kneeling before what diminishes them.